Welcome back to Gallery Watch. I'm Nadia Hunter and we are at Baratti Fine Art Studio for the exhibition entitled 718.
This figure was one of the... So in the departments of hell, there was like always two guardians at the front, and they usually were depicted with crew jewels or something like that. I think that's sort of like, you know, just beware. Then you'd have like a retinue of stuff. For me, I really like this figure because it's sort of like a, you know, a horn figure. So you've got that sort of, and he was black and he had sort of a yellow robe. I like the colours and stuff. And I think that, like, you know, he sort of looked like a classic sort of devil-like sort of depiction. But then he had this sort of like spiral, which was a little bit like a yin and yang, but it was like a one-pointed. And what I sort of wanted to sort of work out is so that, you know, in his belly was like a cauldron. So in Chinese culture, you've got like the three treasures which rotate in the cinnabar field and the lower field, and that's sort of like about... So for me, he's more like a alchemical kind of figure of self-conservation through Tai Chi and Qigong and stuff like that. And I sort of thought, you know, he's holding the crew jewel just like a mudra. It's not really, looks very threatening, his hands opened, you know. So, I mean, it's just my interpretation of, you know, I'm not 100% sure who he is, but I just sort of went, you know, there's certain sort of markings and stuff. It was really cool because he had, you know, like tattoos and stuff, and so I thought like I would kind of like, you know, talk a little bit about like maybe a reference to Chinese alchemical concepts of self-cultivation with Taoism and stuff like that.
I love his expression.
Yeah. Yeah, it was sort of funny. Someone was talking to me about like the different eyes. He's very focused. This guy's from the Hell Department of Mountains and Forest, I think, and he has like three, you know, he's got a three-peaked mountain on his head, so I think he's very weighted, and he's a very, I think he's like a very sort of benign and you know, like sort of a simple, but he reminds me a lot of like there's an Egyptian sort of figure, like of Bez, which is sort of like a dwarf kind of guy, and also like a bit sort of satyr, you know. He's got like he's a sort of half animal, half from the mountains. I think he's just sort of like a mountain forest kind of like spirit.
So this one's the gatekeeper.
Yeah, well, he's one of the ones that's behind. Yeah, there was always like two sort of attendants, and then you'd have this little retinue, and he'd be next to another like forest god or something like that. And then at the end it was like the kings or something like that. Yeah. But I was just sort of you know, really. I mean, it was so overwhelming because there was so many life-size statues, and it was such a different world, you know. It was so foreign but fantastical and like amazing, and I was like, wow, what's that all about? Of course, there's some structural kind of resonances with which I think with different spiritual systems, you know, you get sort of like very tight resonances, but you know, there's, you know, particularly this is like, you know, there's you know, cultural nuances and the accretion of like, you know, like a very long culture of like Chinese, you know, like myths and folklore and stuff like that. So. Well, I mean, Factory 718 came about. The main sort of center in like Beijing is. It's 798, I think, the section, but it's like, you know, I think that's what the whole precinct's for. I think it's 798. But originally it was like a factory that was It was like, you know, it was a group of factories, old munition factories, so they used to make bombs or something there or whatever. And it was actually like 718. And the number 718 is particularly relevant to, you know, like a Western esoteric tradition of like Thelema. So in a way, I think that the 718 was really significant to me because, you know, I've worked with an esoteric kind of system that's, you know, derived from Aleister Crowley and stuff like that, and through, you know, through his sort of like works, and within that sort of inspired, you know, writings and stuff. The Kabbalistic is sort of the numerical significance of numbers and letters and stuff. So 718 was particularly important to that tradition. When you're into numerology and Kabbalistic stuff, certain numbers and signs sort of like start to have their own language. You know?
They do.
Yeah. So you know, and that was like cool. That's awesome. That's us. Yes.
It's very inspiring. It's very intriguing. It's you definitely get a lot out of just looking into it and trying to find some kind of meaning. What's happening? You can certainly see the sort of esoteric journeys that he's had within the work. That's very interesting.
What type of emotions do you feel when you're looking at some of these? Have you read some of the histories behind the work?
Not as of yet. I will.
Tell me what you think of the little dolls.
The little dolls, yeah, they're a little bit creepy. They're very interesting. It's almost demonic to an extent. They seem like these possessed little dolls, but they've all obviously serve a very different function. You know, the middle one seems to serve some kind of tyranny.
Adding up quickly in my mind, you have 20 devils. But each devil has its own meaning. It has its own relationship to what you believe and what you do. There are several there that appeal, and then you would go and you would look and you would find your devil, and you would say that devil means this, that devil means that, and you go with what you feel and what your devil speaks to you.
What does your devil speak?
Fucking gibberish.
What do you think of this fantastic exhibition tonight?
I am wonderful, thank you, and even better for coming here this evening. We've had an eclectic mix of dancing. We had a giant lion / dragon dance, and we had the drums and the cymbals. Absolutely wonderful, really good for the soul. Not only that, the artwork presented here tonight is absolutely amazing. The colours, and not only the colours, the forms, and the fact that they're reaching out to a spiritual realm is what I feel is most important.
It's been really quite interesting to see the diverse range of art that's actually come out of the partnership. I've got to say I really enjoy looking at Rob's work. I think these four are probably my favourite. We were actually dreaming of the $2 million house that we could have to put them up on the wall.
Why these ones in particular?
I like the detail, and quite frankly, I'd love to know what the actual writing means. That to me would actually bring it more to life.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed today's episode of Gallery Watch. I'm Nadia Hunter. See you next time.